Peace, everyone. Welcome to the Moroccan Post on Crumb TV. I want to give our shout out to Brother Crumb for allowing the Moroccan Post to use the Crumb TV platform. I've been on the Crumb TV platform since February 13th of this year. We met Brother Crumb at an event that he and Brother Ponder put together, hosted in Willowboro, New Jersey, and on the January 23rd, or I think 24th. So we have two guests this day. All right. So what we'll do is we're going to go through the. Okay. All right. So this is Moors and Masonry Part One. Part The enslavement of Europeans does not fit the general theme of European world conquest and colonization that is central to scholarship on the early modern era. Robert Davis, professor of Italian Renaissance history, Ohio State University. To get this Moors and Masonry Part 1, you go to moorsandmasonry.org. Yeah, coming your way soon. Moors and Masonry Part 2, the power of Moorish treaties and the recovery of lost Moorish sovereignty. That you can pre-order the book by going to moorsandmasonry.org. The book will be coming your way soon. All right. This is I'm very excited about this book here. We have the Moroccan Post Media YouTube page. We have the Moroccan Post Media YouTube page. You click on that. We have the Moorish Body Politic Formation classes on there, and we also have our Wednesday Zoom classes. You see here we have the law, government, and history class on every Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time via Zoom. The past Wednesday class, August 24th, we go to Moroccan Post Media, and you have the speakers of that class is Shimon Bay and Michael Bay. The topic, Moorish Treaties, Protection and Consular Relations, Part 1. Now, Part 2 will be a review this coming Wednesday. So we have this coming Wednesday, upcoming class, Part 2 review. So we have upcoming class.
Actually, that's Part 1 review.
Part 1 review. All right, we'll do part 1 review. Thank you, Terrence.
Yes.
All right, so that's this Wednesday, August 31st, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's a live class via Zoom, and it's uploaded. The class will be uploaded the same night and placed on our Moroccan Post Media Zoom page, YouTube page, Moroccan Post Media YouTube page. All right. So I want to thank you. So we're going to bring in our guests, and so we have Brother Mansa and Brother Elamer, and I want you brothers to Brother Mansa. We've known each other since 2007. Since 2007, yes, we met at the class in New York, in Harlem, New York. Yes,
Absolutely.
right. So I want you to introduce yourselves. All right, tell us a little bit about yourselves, your background, your history, your involvement in the movement. All right, so that those who are listening get an opportunity to know you. Before we get into the topic, I want them to get an opportunity to know who y'all are. All right.
Indeed. Appreciate that. Thank you a lot. My name is Mansa Muhammad. I'm a co-founder of Marrakesh Society. I met the brother Abdullah and Taj Tariq Bey in 2007, along with Ilamir. And my involvement in the movement started 2005-06, and we were doing some things in Jersey at the time. I'm originally from, Brooklyn, New York, and I was living in Jersey at the time. And essentially, I linked with Brother Ilamir. We founded Marrakesh Society, got involved with the Moorish community, and in about 2007, we met Brother Taj Tariq Bey and the brother Abdullah Bey in Harlem. At that time, it was called the National Black Theater. I think they sold it since.
Yeah, I think.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So essentially, we moved. We started the Miracle Society, then we founded the Aboriginal Law Firm and the Aboriginal Law Institute. We were just creating solutions, investigating things, researching things, implementing things, testing things out, reporting our findings back to the community. You all may be familiar with us from the Moors in Court cases, which is the YouTube videos that have gone
Mm-hmm.
viral so many times, so many years.
Revival. Yes, it did.
Yeah. So that's who we are. We've been very involved with the community ever since. We've, helped thousands of our people, Moors, Moorish Americans, Aboriginal, Indigenous people, quote unquote, Black folks. So we've just been really, really active in the community. You can check our website out at miracussociety.org. You can check out my book, From Slaves to Kings, at fromslavestokings.com. You can follow me on Instagram at mansa.i.muhammad. And yeah, so that's a little bit about myself. I'll pass it off to my brother Ilamir. He can introduce himself.
All right. When you want
Peace,
to
peace.
put your information in the chat. Can you put his information in the chat, T?
Yeah,
Put the book title, the website in the chat.
Thank you.
All right. Go ahead. Yes, brother.
Peace, peace. Elamir here. No need to be redundant. Like the brother said,
Well, tell
yeah,
us about your background, though. We want
we
to know what's your background in this movement.
yeah, we
I mean,
bumped into
yes. I apologize.
yeah, we bumped into Sister Roz one day up there in Harlem. That's how we made our way to the theater. But I'm originally from Trenton, New Jersey, and Burlington County, Willingboro,
Mm-hmm.
that area as well. So over the years, like you said, we just been, gathering the data, that's necessary. In addition to that, I'm also a student in Camden County for criminal justice right now as well. But I had started that back in about 2005, but I didn't finish back then. So I'm back in school now to go ahead and
Mm-hmm.
get that degree.
All
But
right.
you can also follow me on the gram at the More of New Jersey, and we got a great Facebook page, More Kush Society as well, with a lot of information on there.
Put that in the chat. Yeah, put your information in the chat because I want people to you know really follow y'all. Because y'all guys are doing some good work. So we want people to purchase your book, Brother Massa. So they take opportunity to put that in the chat. All right. So we have the day's topic. How can the Moors, classified as black, come under protection of Moorish treaties? And we were talking about as we were thinking about a topic for today's presentation. I think it was about over a month ago, and
Mhm.
we wanted to connect with those who are unconscious. So we just put how can Moors and then I said, well, that would not somebody who's not conscious would not connect with that. So that's why we have Moors classified as black. That would all and not and also we would also it would include, the topic includes those who are not who know that they're Moors, like conscious that they're Moors. But we wanted to have a topic to draw those who are unconscious. So we didn't want to just limit the topic. All right. So that's why uh, we have classified as black. All right. So let's delve in. Now just delve right into the topic. What would be the first step? To bringing Moors who are classified as black and under the protection of Moorish treaties. Let's look at that first before we look at those who are already conscious. Let's address, because there's millions of who are there are millions of us who are unconscious. Millions. I mean millions. So how do we address the though bring those who are classified, who are unconscious and who are classified as black, nickel colored, African American, Indian, Latino, Spanish, Puerto Rican under the Protection of Moorish Treaties?
You want to start with that one, L, or you yeah, you
You
got it.
got it.
No,
You
no,
got
go
it.
ahead. You got it. You can open it up.
Yes,
You got it. You got it.
we're
You got
gonna
it. You
dive
got it.
into this is
You got it.
that's a broad question.
Okay, so yeah, I essentially think you would have to start with identifying first who are quote unquote African Americans and who are blacks, and start with what their origins are. You don't have to go back too far, but because when we talk about those who are classified as black, it has to be understood that for the intents and purposes of this discussion, we're not speaking about it in the sense of it's sociologically accepted or popular terms, which can change according to the meanings of what people personal opinions are. However, we have to acknowledge that when we're speaking about it in the strict context of what it means in Federal Directive 15, which is a federal policy that determines the race classification for
Mhm.
different ethnicities and nationalities in America or in the United States of America. So it's essential to first define, what that is. And when we define what that is, anyone could research it, Google it, pull it up. It says that, everyone else descends from the original people of their particular place. But when it comes to the black definition in Federal Directive 15, it specifically states that it pertains to those who are of the black racial groups of Africa. And when you dig into case law and you dig into constitutional laws and you dig and you dig and you dig, you're going to find that black racial groups mean slave groups of Africa. And then you have to look to the South Carolina Negro law that was implemented to determine how that came to be. And when we look at that, it specifically states that um, the Negro shall be a term confined to slaved Africans. In parentheses, it says ancient Berbers and their descendants. Okay, not including free Moors, Egyptians, and Lascars. So the whole point is when we say, and then so the reason I'm going through definitions is because we have to define what the term is. It means a specific thing in English etymologically, but it means something specifically different in the US context of its application. And so we also look to another definition, which comes from the Britannica, which is the American Negro is a new cultural product consisting of all the tribes of Africa, Europeans, and Native Americans, right? And in it, when it says consisting of all the tribes of Africa, it also says among them Moors and Arabs. Okay, so when we discuss that specifically, we also discuss it in another context because there's another discussion going on between those who are from the African diaspora and those who are from the Caribbean and those who consider themselves foundational Black Americans or American descendants of slaves, right? So there's the broader context, but what I'm speaking about in the terms I just gave pertain to those who not necessarily are this live in the United States, but how the United States perceives anyone of high melanin content. or who are Moors or who are labeled African Americans and Negroes. So I'll start with that before going forward. I'll see what Elamir wants to say, and if you want to say, then I can go a little bit more
All right.
into how we actually come into the space of them being able to apply or come under some type of treaty protections that pertain to Moors.
Alamir?
Yeah, that was yeah, that's that's pretty on spot. Um I would say in addition, or the supplement, that it's a necessity to have cognizance of the various tribes that were caught up in what we call in the Atlantic slave trade or the Iberian slave trade, and the direct connections between those tribes, modern day African Americans, and those tribes, and uh, like you said, them being Berbers and Arabs.
Uh, so, brother Mansur, you wanted to expand. You said you have some more to say on the topic. So, want you continue.
All right. So the original question was, how do we get quote unquote blacks, the Moors classified as black, treaty rights? Right. Paraphrasing. That was
Yeah.
the question,
Yes.
correct?
Absolutely.
All right. So since we've come to understanding based on some definitions that pertain to what black and Negro is in the United States of America, we have to then say to ourselves, we have to understand what treaties are we speaking about, what is a treaty, and how would it even pertain to African Americans. So when we first do that, one of the most popular things that people know about the Moors is whatever, whether however we all perceive it, because a lot of Moors perceive the treaty differently in its application and its usage and understanding it, but we acknowledge that it's a vital piece of Moorish history. So the specific treaty I'm speaking about is the Moorish Treaty of 1836, or maybe 1856. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong.
36.
36, right?
36.
That is the one that's still in force. It was originally created by the father of Sidi Muhammad, which was Mullah Ismail in 1786. And that specific treaty has a lot that we can discuss about it, but just, moving it along, that particular treaty is a vital piece of Moorish history and a foundational uh, uh, block to the Moorish paradigm. So that treaty details and outlines rights that pertain to Moors, right?
Mhm.
And I think a lot of times what our people have to understand, especially when we have the discussion of reparations, that's a very popular discussion right now. What's missing from that discussion is the understanding that there must be a repairing of the nation that was destroyed or that was ripped from us. And you can't have true reparations without reinstating your sovereignty, right? And if it is, it's just a welfare check, because reparations are given to nations, right? So the whole point is, when we look at that discussion in the Supreme Court, the main piece that has been used to deny reparations has been the fact that it was stated that slavery was legal at the time. So because slavery was legal at the time, they cannot give reparations for something that wasn't illegal, because it wasn't against the law at the time. But what the Moorish treaties produce for the claim of reparations for our people is that it establishes that when we were enslaved, it was illegal.
Damn
You understand? Because what happens is,
Oh shoot.
what happened is slavery was illegal because in those specific treaties, and see, those treaties are come on the back end of hundreds of years of treaties between Moors and European states and nations, right? We have a book called Introduction to Moorish Treaties, which has about 400 years of Moorish treaties in there. And in it, it recognizes there's a treaty between Britain and the Moorish Sultan. And in that specific treaty, it recognizes the Sultan of Morocco at the time, or of Marrakesh at the time, as the ruler of all west of Africa. So that means that everything in West Africa, you can interpret two ways. You can say West Africa or everything west of Africa, which is what it literally says. But either way, the point is, it recognized that that was his jurisdiction, right? So what makes it illegal is that it says in that treaty that when we meet, you shall not make us slaves. You can't make us into Negroes or slaves. That's what the treaty specifically says. So what ends up happening is that treaty has been ratified by the United States government. So that moves it from just being an international treaty protected under Article 6 of the Constitution, because it's also still in force, but it also makes it a part of domestic U.S. law because the Senate had ratified it. Yep. They ratified it in U.S. in U.S. H stat 104. I'm pretty sure Elamir can give you the direct reference, but it has been ratified by Congress hundreds of years ago. So that makes it a part of U.S. law, domestic law, which means it is federal law, which makes it a self-executing treaty, which means that you don't need the nation or the state that the agreement was made with to intervene on your behalf, because it's a part of the domestic law of the country, meaning it's binding on every citizen. So the whole point is that treaty helps us establish that when they enslaved us, it was illegal. And that creates the basis in law for the reparations to be made. So when we speak about how the treaty can apply to African Americans or apply to blacks, what they have to understand and what Moors have to be more sensitive in marketing to them is when we tell them you're not black, you're not Negro, you're not colored, you have to understand that they have accepted these identities as their own, and not only have they accepted these identities as their own, the system of oppression, white supremacy, right? But it's not really white supremacy per se. It's really the Christian doctrine of discovery that's being applied, because the whole concept of supremacy stems from the application and implementation of the doctrine of discovery. So essentially what we have to understand when we're telling our brothers and sisters who identify as Negro, black, and colored is that we have to make a space where there's a universal and uniform way of bringing them into the Moorish paradigm so that they get the community recognition as a Moor, because there's a United States Supreme Court case where a European woman, a European American woman, married. She wanted to change. She wanted to be acknowledged as a Black American, and the court put the standards to the test. And the standards that they put her to the test was they brought the community out. She went to a Black church. She was married to a Black man. She played organ in that black church. She taught at a black school. And because the community came out and embraced her, the standard for whether one gets recognized as a part of a group or not, or a protected class via national origin, nationality, racial group, is community recognition. So there needs to be a basis to provide the community recognition to those seeking it. And in so doing, that creates the first instance wherein which you can bridge the gap between bringing someone who is identifying as Negro, Black, and colored into the Moorish paradigm. I say that broadly, so that they can get community recognitions to qualify for the protections that's laid out in the law. Because the technicality of what we have come to the conclusion of during our research, which comes along with the books that we put out over 30 some books, but also the back and forth litigation that we have been doing specifically for over a decade now, and more specifically Ilamir, and he can speak a lot more in depth about certain aspects of the litigation. But through that, we have come to the conclusion and understanding that it is not that the Moorish identity and status isn't recognized, it's in blocking the application of it to those who would traditionally be identified as Negro, Black, and colored. So with that, I digress.
Well, I'll add on
Yeah.
to
Yeah,
um,
I'm good.
get a little bit more specific about statutory construction.
I wanted him to do.
Because these treaties are ratified, they are federal statutes. They are federal statutes, just like Civil Rights Acts, any other act that Congress ratifies or passes. So the legal understanding has to be upgraded as well. I'm constantly seeing Moore's putting out information that's inaccurate, not official, and sometimes just totally false, and that that needs to change. But back to the statutory application, it's when it comes to a treaty, like I said, it's a statute, so it's not a flesh and blood being. You as an individual have to know how to apply the statute. You have to know where it applies, when it applies, what in it applies, and what circumstances do these different provisions and articles apply to. So the average person, I'm gonna just say African American because that's what we talk about. The average African American does not know how to draft a lawsuit. They don't know how to draft a criminal complaint. They don't know how to draft an administrative complaint. These are three particular documentary tools that one would have to use to enforce any statute, whether it's a treaty, whether it's a Civil Rights Act, or any other type of statutory authority. So, because the community is missing these particular components, even if they uh, got their status corrected, proclaimed their nationality, they'd still have difficulty in enforcing their rights by lacking knowledge on those particular legal procedures. Now, that's only one aspect. When you get to the aspect of those that may know these things, they have to deal with racism and obstruction of justice. So these are all different aspects of treaty enforcement that come into play. You might be able to articulate the treaties, right? But you might be dealing with a government official that's committing misconduct. What's your recourse then? You're going to need media support and you're going to need community support to actually enforce these things. And with that, I'm going to digress.
All right. Are you on?
Yeah, you on?
All right. I said I'm on mute.
Just go.
All right, peace. Yes, I want us to we're going to look at what is your thoughts on consular notification? 28 CF 28 CFR 52 50.2 28 CFR 50.2 consular notification. Let me go right to that.
Can you repeat it one more time?
Yeah, 28 CFR 50.5 notification of consular officers upon the arrest of foreign nationals. Can you go into can you go into that statute?
All right, I got it pulled
Elaborate?
up.
Can you explain consular notification? What are your thoughts on consular notification and how can
Well,
what is the application of consular notification
well,
when
first
one
of
of us
all,
should be arrested by the foreign jurisdiction known as United States?
okay, well, first of all, this is 28 CFR. This is not a statute. This is a code of federal regulations.
Code of Federal Regulation. That's
Yeah, there's
CFR
a
and the Code of
difference. The,
Regulation.
the code of federal regulations is not done by Congress. So there's a difference then between a 28 United States code and 28 Code of Federal Regulations, just to make that clear. But first off, I would want to know, this says notification of consular officers upon arrest of foreign nationals, but the discussion is about African Americans, and legally they're not foreign nationals.
Also, I would want to I just want to add, you know, the question is asked what I think about this particular code. But to start off, like Elamir had just pointed out, is we have to understand, because there's a lot of legal literature that the government produces. So we have to know the difference between when the president signs something into public law versus when Congress ratifies something and it becomes a part of the United States statutes at large. And then from the United States statutes at large, it becomes codified and becomes a part of the United States Code. So the CFRs is the fourth branch. What they say is the unofficial fourth branch of government is all of the federal corporations that exist, like the all the administrative entities, like the TSA, the the ATF, the FBI. All of these are federal corporations slash organizations organized under the government, right? So their proposed at the end of the year, all of their proposed rules, all of these federal agencies, all of the proposed rules that they issue between themselves of how they're going to administrate these specific um, uh, agencies that they have becomes published at the end of the year, and it becomes known as the Code of Federal Regulations. So that's what the Code of Federal Regulations is. So when we look at how the Code of Federal Regulations is applied, let's say you have an issue with the federal agency and it hasn't gone to litigation in terms of going to court where you're actually bringing a course of action against them or them you. The Code of Federal Regulations becomes something that you discuss with them based on how they implement the policies within those agencies. So when we take that portion and we look at what Ilamir pointed out in terms of, if we're talking about, I'm not sure, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but if we're talking about Moors identified as Negro, Black, and colored who hasn't quote unquote proclaimed nationality or changed their identity, whatever, what, different terminologies to different people. The whole point is, if they haven't done that, then there isn't a way for them to identify as a foreign national because they're literally citizens. Secondly, even if they have done that, there has to be some type of, if you want to be successful, you can do things renegade and make claims, but you'll have to fight to have those claims acknowledged when the implementation of the doctrine of discovery is being enforced upon you. You'll have to still prove what you're saying at some point. So the reality is, even if you have taken steps to do whatever it is you think you needed to do to be a Moor or claim you're a Moor, or even if you haven't, there isn't a way that provides Moors or anyone who is attempting to claim they're Moor an efficient way to actually say that they're foreign national so that they can actually do the consular officer position, because you'd have to have a government that governs a nation that has a consular office as a department of that government for that nation. And anyone can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know what's going on out here. I've been out the loop for a little bit in terms of all of the different Moorish organizations and claims that's being made. But based on my understanding and my engagement with the paradigm in the community, it doesn't exist in a capacity that stops unlawful arrest, discrimination, and true official recognition, to the context that, you know, people still won't have to go to court to fight and make sure that, you know, the claims they're making is accepted. So I don't know if I answered the question. I answered it as best as possible, but that's what I have to say. I'll digress at that point.
Yes, you are. That you definitely answered the question. I want to go because we're addressing the issue of the matter, the status of those who are Moors who are classified as black, nickel colored. All right. So that was a excellent. That is the actual answer. I mean, you know, because you got to address the status issue uh, first, and that you did a wonderful job in doing that. You know, now the consular notification. Let's go. Let's look at the Vienna Convention on Consular Relations, which the United States has signed on to and ratified. So the CFR 28 CFR Code of Federal Regulation is the legislation in which to enforce the international law Vienna Convention on Consular Relations, because we first start with Vienna Convention on Consular Relations, all right, which is a convention, which is a multilateral treaty, and many nations have signed on to that, including, as you know, United States is being the child of Great Britain. United States being the child of Great Britain, all right, has also signed on to that, all right. So definitely excellent answer. Particularly when you went into the importance of government structure in order to enforce the Moorish treaties and consular notification, and that being lacking among the Moors, the conscious Moors, that's being lacking. So that there needs to be a great push for the facilitation of Moorish government structure. And that's, you know, you actually talked about the importance of doing that. And that was actually a great job. Great job. And so I have let me.
Thank you. Alhamdulillah. Thank you.
You have anything else you want to say on the topic?
Yeah, just to chime in for a second. See, the U.S. signed on to the Vienna Convention, but Congress did not ratify it. So what happens is when they sign on to international agreement like that or a UN law or something like that, and if Congress fails to ratify it, it's not considered to be domestically enforceable. So those are some of the problems with actually a lot of the UN laws. They'll go in and they'll say that they're on board with it, but when it actually comes down to upholding to what they signed on to, they fail to do it on a domestic level as a matter of practice. I mean, it's several UN laws that they signed on to that Congress has not ratified. So technically, those Moorish treaties actually have more weight in terms of enforcement
I'm about to say,
within the domestic level of things.
But I also should add on there, brother L, is that Obama, whether you like him or not, whatever you think about his policies, he was a constitutional lawyer in college and a U.S. president, two-term U.S. president, and he argued for the weapons ban that the UN wanted to implement globally. He was arguing, or his administration argued, that it did not need the ratification of the U.S. Congress in order for it to be enforceable because it was already enforceable under Article 6 of the Constitution. So that's not the generally accepted. That's not generally accepted among the U.S. courts to be the case. I'm just saying that the public should know that Obama argued that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that
yeah.
it.
He made the argument, but the Supreme Court, you know how they do. They,
But see, but yeah, but see, but that's my point. My point is that we do know how they do, and we can see from how they reverse Roe versus Wade, how they reverse. Not that I'm for or against. I'm just saying the rulings are going. The position on law changes with the politics of the day. You see, is all I'm saying. And I can remember before you and I even came to the understanding that of what self-executing treaties were in its existence, that we actually would, make the argument that it's already protected under Article 6 of the Constitution. So but again, I agree that's not how the courts apply
yeah,
the understanding of treaty laws and its implementation as domestic law. But
agreed. But if you would recall, we also invoked Title One of the New Jersey statutes that pretty much corresponded with Article 6 to certain degrees. So we didn't just rely on the supremacy clause. We also had domestic statutory law that supported the supremacy clause position.
Well, I mean, that's a standard of that's the methodology we use when applying things. We look for the application of it at the highest level, and then we work it all the way down from the highest level down to the state level and down to even municipal level if we can find it, and even policy if we can find it implemented. So, no, I agree with you 100%. I just wanted to inform the audience because we have to we those who are Moors and who are conscious of their Moorish identity have to become capable mentally of perceiving, understanding, and figuring out legal theory as it pertains to different subjects. You see, because that is how you keep the mind fresh. And straight up, a lot of Moors just need to go to law school. You know what I mean? Like you're doing. And we know some Moors that, just because we need, like for instance, there's a lot of things that the courts are doing to the Moorish community, right, and denying us rights. And a lot of Moors may not be the best at framing their arguments, at uh, making their cases and their claims, but it still doesn't mean that they're not discriminating. Just because even if you come pro se, You're not supposed to be held to the standard as someone who went through to law school and such. However, when we look at the Native American population in terms of those recognized by the Bureau of Indian Affairs as Indian for all intents and purposes, they have lawyers that still argue their treaties, and their treaties aren't even classed under foreign law. It's classed
Nope.
under domestic law. You
Yeah.
see? And they're always, no matter if they're citizens or not, they're always proclaiming their treaty rights. And in some of the cases where they have overcome and won, they said that at some times you just have to keep fighting for those rights to get them. Don't give up just because the courts say that you don't got this right, or you can't make this claim, or you can't say that, doesn't mean they're right. Because we know one thing historically is that they have always, and this is not, people have to understand that it's not about the U.S. and the black population. This is something that is an ancient conflict between bloodlines that is manifesting on this stage at this level. So there's always going to be these things where it's put in place to impede you, stop you, to discriminate you against your rights and all of these types of things. So we can't look at what their opinions and their ruling is as the truth, because they will straight up lie and be racist. And you have sitting federal judges acknowledging this currently, acknowledging the racial bias, the national ethnic bias that is a part of the court system. You have clerks. My bad, go ahead. I digress. Go ahead.
Now I was going to say, and they're talking about their colleagues.
Right.
They're talking about people they work with,
Right. So as a paradigm, as a community, as a nation, as a people, we can't look to what they're saying as the definitive end all be all, because what we're doing is we're removing ourselves from our position as Moors to be the law men and women, to be those who know law and implement law, because we're supposed to be upon the straight path, right? So our laws are derived from Moorish law. We know Moorish law is Islamic law. However you want to understand that, frame that, take that, the ruling power of the Moors before the fall and before colonization was Islam. And that was the law we were under. And that is the law that made the pathway for the treaties to be made.
Just click on that.
So the reality is that when we're looking at what they're saying in their codes, in their statutes, in their laws, we have to understand that as a ever-changing system, because they're passing laws every day. They're voting on things every day. They're implementing new policies every day. It's active. It's not static. It's not in a state of static. It's not doing the same thing every day. They're changing constantly. So you have to be able to understand when you're talking about these things, where we have to become efficient at knowing how to articulate what we're observing. We have to become efficient at describing the things we're reading, because it's all in your description, because certain words you use could trap you up into the way they have framed the narrative and context, even within in laws, because we're literally dealing with wizardry and spell work. It's just through papers and words and documents, and now it's digital. So with that, I digress. I don't want to take up too much space on that. I just wanted to point out, that portion.
My brother Jim Malachi Bay, he's watching, and he texts me, and he wants me to read. He's the Code of Federal Regulations. I'm gonna read this. He just texted this to me because he's watching. So let me read this. The Code of Federal Regulations is the codification of the federal government's rules and regulations published in the Federal Register. The official version is published annually by the Office of the Federal Register and the Government Publishing Office. The informal version is updated daily online. The CFR encompasses the wide breadth of federal rules and regulations published by the federal government's agencies and executive departments. It differs from the Federal Register in an important respect. Unlike the Federal Register, the CFR contains merely the final and effective rules of federal agencies and related official interpretations to the rules. It does not contain preambles, proposed rules, notices, or general policy statements found in the Federal Register. The CFR was created with the passage of the Federal Register Act and amended in 1937 to provide a quote unquote codification of all regulations every 5 years. It was published first for the first time in 1938. The CFR reflects the tenet that the federal government must follow an open public process when rulemaking. The United States Constitution permits federal agencies to promulgate rules to enable Congress legislation. This rulemaking process is governed by the Administrative Procedure Act. The act requires a formalized procedure for agencies to follow. Proposed rules must be first published in a notice of proposed rulemaking. This notice allows the public to comment and participate in the rulemaking process before the final rule is adopted and published. A rule becomes final when it is published in the Federal Register. The CFR is divided. The, CF, the CFR is divided into 50 titles. Each agency is assigned chapters within the titles. The standard organization of the title consists of chapters, subchapters, parts, sections, paragraphs. The CFR's 50 titles are divided by subject areas, and I'll just name some of them. Title 1, General Provisions. Title 2, Grants and Agreements. Title 3, The President. Title 4, Accounts. Title 5, Administrative Personnel. Title 6, Domestic Security. Title 7, Agriculture. Title 8, Aliens and Nationality. Title 9, Animals and Animal Products. Title 10, Energy. Title 11, Elections. And I'm going to go to Title 22, Foreign Relations. I wanted to do 13 to be in harmony with the moon. All right, print the moon cycles. There's 13 moon cycles. All right, so that's why I wanted to do 13. I wanted to read 13 of them. So there's a reason. That's why I then skipped to 22, which is federal foreign relations. All right. So I want to Shim Malachi Bey, who's watching, brother, whom I've known for almost 20 years, and I began working with him in 2019. We also part of the Moorish Pure Restoration Caucus. All right, so he wanted me to read this as he's watching. All right, so so as y'all can continue, and I wanted to read that for everybody.
Indeed. Yeah, I would just say that the all of these rules and regulations, laws, and all of these things that all this body of work that the United States has produced. I just want to say I don't know if this is too much for YouTube or whatever, but I just think as Moors, I don't know if this is off topic even, but I just think as Moors, we have a lot of potential to just do our own thing. There's enough of us who acknowledge the identity and the heritage, and there's enough of us with the intellect and capabilities to all find some common ground at some point to create something that's resemble uniformity. That would be attractive for the masses because most of the people who really want to engage with the Morris paradigm don't like the division. They don't like, they like different personalities, and they would just like to see them all somehow figure out. If you're out there on the speaking as a leader or someone who's informed and you're imparting wisdom and knowledge on people, and the people regard you in that way, then it's really our service to them to organize something in a capacity that serves their needs, and it's something they all want to see, and it's all something that would need to be done in order to convince the masses of the blacks, the masses of the Moors, that the leadership or those who hold themselves out front have something that we all can participate in. You know, we could all be right and wrong at the same time, because if we right, but if us being right creates discord and disunity, we're not going to make any progress with that. So the reality is that I just think that sometimes as Moors we get caught up into what this code says and what that says, and the reality, man, is that there might not even this thing has always been an experiment and a work in progress. This thing called the United States of America, and nobody knows when it's going to go belly up or not. But one thing's for sure, two things for certain, is that we acknowledge that we're a nation of people and an identity that was stripped from us. And the second thing that's for certain is we know that no one could have our best interests except us. So I just think at some point there has to be discussions in that, in that realm that leads to some type of uniformity that could be presented to the people as something they all could participate in. And I think that's how you ultimately get the masses of the blacks to embrace the Moorish identity and to put themselves in a position where we can benefit from a lot of these things. Because what I realize, and I think Ilamir could agree, is it's not in what we know that's powerful. It's not in how we do what we do and how we understand what we understand that's powerful. It's in working together. That's where the power is. And I can say specifically, being in so many situations where we're getting arrested, and even though I don't have, I was, alhamdulillah, I was able to win all of my litigation. The reality is that, I remember one time, I got arrested. I was talking all of this stuff about, my nationality, Moors, and I'm this and I'm that. And the cop said, okay, yeah, you're right. Okay, yeah, we get it. You're a Moor. But it's only you and your partner here. Where's your nation? Where's your tribe? It's only you two guys. And from that day forward, I understood that the real fight was in organizing among ourselves, because really they don't have anything other than lies and cheating. You know, it's really a Wizard of Oz situation. So that's what they have in their corner, and what they have working for them is us not working together. So I digress. I just want to say that portion.
My boy Robert, etymology assistant.
Brother, you saw me over here clapping. Y'all saw me clapping. Everyone who's watching. I mean, man, this is wonderful. Man, this is a treat for everybody. I just want to tip my tarboos, unwrap my turban, and tip my fez to both of you brothers. This is wonderful, man. And this we're showing unity. This is a show of unity. And I thought it would be proper to bring both of these brothers on so that we can show you unity. And we're definitely being illuminated. We're being illuminated. We're on the same page. We're on the same page, brothers. And this won't be your first. Y'all will be back, invited back. Y'all will be invited back.
Honest and appreciation.
Definitely, this is wonderful.
Honest for the acknowledgement.
Yeah. In October. I get back in October.
Indeed. I mean, man, we go way back, brother. Like you said, you started off, man, 2007. What's that? 14 years ago.
My daughter was 1 year old. She was one year.
Wow, mashallah. Wow.
I'm literally, my daughter's only 1 year old.
Wow.
Maybe 10, 11 months old at that time. Yep.
Mashallah. That's amazing.
She'll be 16 on Halloween. She's starting a sophomore in high school.
Wow! Congratulations! That's amazing.
So we got some history. That's one of
Yeah, man. And it's always an honor to cross paths again with those of us who we know we don't have to agree on everything, and we're not supposed to. It's the diversity of thought that keeps everything alive, active, moving, the challenging of thoughts, the challengings of perceptions and understanding. All of those things keeps the mentality, the idea, the history, everything. It keeps it alive, and it keeps it growing, and it keeps it evolving and changing. So all of that's good. But those of us who really know who's putting in work, boots on the ground, we know. And you one of those guys who always been putting in work, boots on the ground. You know what I'm saying? And that's how we met. You know what I mean? That's how we linked up, because we were both boots on the ground and really seeking to implement solutions for the benefit of the people. I don't know what people are in it for now, but there's so much more that we can gain by working together at this point, because whatever we know and whatever we've come to learn and know, it is what it is. That's not the fight nor the challenge. The challenge is putting something together, that allows for everyone who's interested to participate in the Moorish paradigm. And the reason I say paradigm and not the nation is because we're disorganized. We understand what our nation is, our ethnicity, our national, all of that. We get it. But it's the idea of unifying that thought to put to action is what the paradigm is.
Gotta clap again.
You know what I'm saying? The paradigm is what's moving everything forward. You know what I mean? So I just think that we have it, man. Moors get a lot of criticism. People call Moors weird. They into all this weird stuff. But when you look at who the Moors are today, we're the only ones putting up a legitimate one in a non-violent way.
True.
In a non-violent way.
That's true.
Legitimately challenging directly
True.
the discrimination, the racism, the denationalization. Moors are the only ones on the front lines doing that, non-violently too.
True.
You see? So, and I think that goes unnoticed, and it goes, especially when you're in a world full of cowards, they're not going to understand. So, and I don't agree with all of the tactics and all of the mentalities and the ideas that Moors embrace, but diversity of thought is going to exist among the people. I don't own anybody to determine what they should be thinking. You know what I mean? So it's like, whether it reflects badly on us as a whole or not, the reality is that the Moors are the only ones who are ready to act on information and knowledge in a non-violent way to achieve. And I'm saying non-violent in a specifically because that's one thing people can't say about the Moors, even with all of the controversy around the tactics. And so that points to a level of intellect and a level of courage that exists among us. So the mission source, man, is just working together. I digress, though.
Alamara, you wanna a comment?
Yeah. The time is now. This is the best time for a lot of these topics and subjects that's circulating in the community to come into further development. Just I'll say about 6 months ago, Reuters, Wall Street Journal, they published articles talking about over 151 federal judges was found to have broken the law but still remain on the bench. These are the same judges that are ruling on Moore's cases. you know, but they're still on the bench. Why is that? Why are they allowed to break the law and still keep their job and receive a pension and so on and so forth? You know, and it comes down to the community not organizing properly and taking action. You know, it's one thing to talk about the history and the glory of the ancestors. It's another thing to start manifesting glory.
Yeah, I didn't know. I don't mean to cut you off. I just want to add to that, brother Elamir, is that yeah, I encourage. See, the way you frame the name of this show and the way you open the question is how do we get blacks, although Moors who classified as blacks under the Moorish Treaty protections, right?
Yes.
Uh, we like I said in the beginning, there has to be some level of awakening, mass awakening that has to take place, and I think it's already happened. With TikTok and the information, the way like the people that I'm seeing know and identify with Moors. I'm like, okay, the paradigm is spread. So the thing is, I think we have to give the paradigm and the movement a facelift, because we're not doing what things like Ilamir said. We allow the media, we allow others to represent us in a way that's not best for us in the movement. And like you can't just go talking about other groups and organizations and make up lies, and you can't do that to other communities. You know what I'm saying? Because they'll organize, they have lawyers, whatever we want to think about them. We're dealing with a system that if you don't play ball, you're not going to be in the game to win, because we don't have the advantage of resisting and not doing things a certain kind of way. So that becomes a portion of a job that we have to convince black lawyers to embrace their Moorish identity. And we need to groom college students to grow and to get those degrees and get those become those lawyers, just like the Indians, American Indians do. They raise up lawyers among them and they put the group's arguments forward. And that group takes care of them. Uh, we have to create an economic marketplace for us to thrive so that we can also fund our scholars and fund the things that's necessary so that we can control our image as Moors and so that we can also, implement more solutions. So there's a lot of things we need to do. And part of that pertains to shoring up and making sure we have solid uh, representatives and those who can handle the legal battles that so many more is like. There's so, like, I know for me personally, I never had an issue with the law until I claimed I was a Moor. Then I had, for a certain portion in my life, man, I was I was being terrorized, man. You know what I'm saying? It was crazy. So the whole point is that our disorganization and lack of unity, no man is an island unto himself. If they're able to violate one without there being any consequence, and I'm not talking about the consequences where you file a lien and you do that's individual. We have to do more things collectively, even when it comes to making the certain changes in the system to correct your identity and status and all those types of things. Those are individual solutions, and I'm not saying we don't need to continue to implement individual solutions, but we have to start implementing collective solutions. And those collective solutions are going to get us further than we could individually, which is what we see when we look at the dockets, when we look at some of the opinions that these judges on the state and federal level are issuing. We're looking at orders that violate constitutional rights, violate due process. All types of rights are being violated. But because we're not organized and unified in our efforts collectively, we don't have a unified way of dealing with these miscarriages of justices and these clearly racist and denationalizing applications of the law. But I digress there. Honest,
No, I gotta do it, man. I gotta get, man.
honest.
I'm crying over here, man. I'm loving this, man. I'm loving this.
That's honest, brother. I mean, you know, man. You know, man. You from back in the day, like.
Yeah, this is
You're not one of these fly-by-night malls who just popped up out of nowhere from watching YouTube videos. This is we from that era where you had to go to the law libraries, you had to go to the libraries and pull those books out and read page for page. So you know what the grind is, man.
I've done that. Yeah.
You know, so we just at that stage, man, where it's enough of us that know, man. It's enough of us that know. It's enough of us that are intelligent and capable. It's enough experimentation. We all have experimented and done things and figured it out. It's just time to put that together, man. What we need to do is do some type of annual Moorish convention, like a constitutional convention type thing every year until we get it right, and block out a weekend, invite all the Moors out, have a grand bazaar. You know what I mean, with Moorish culture and all of that. You know, eat, have a good time, and discuss things publicly, and then the leadership also take time to implement strategies, man. That's what I propose. I think that's how we put the lightning in the bottle and really move forward, because to give the people an opportunity to come out and participate and be a part of it. But that's what they did. They had constitutional conventions, until they got it right. So I just think that'll be something that would be good for rebranding and marketing purposes. We got to give the movement a facelift. We have to make the movement attractive to the youth. We have to make it attractive because when I was young, it was attractive to me. I started when I was 23. You know what I mean? And I'm 38 now. I'll be 39 in October. So, I was a young guy when I got into this. You know what I'm saying? So we got to make sure we opening up the doors for the other young people, you know what I mean, to come in and have the tools that they need to keep it moving forward, man. You know what I'm saying? It's a relay race. We're not supposed to hold the same spot forever. You know what I mean? We're supposed to keep passing it on to the youth. So I think doing something like that gives us an opportunity to bring people together, show what the real representation is, give people a reason to celebrate being Moors. If you done came from Negro, Black, and colored, and you done went through all of, there should be some celebration we should have, where this is acknowledged, and then it gives, we're social people, man. We're people of culture, we're people of fellowship. And that's something that I think that we need to do and organize just among ourselves as just Moors in general, is to do a constitutional convention. And to, you can start polling, your audience, and we'll be polling, and everybody just start putting some polls out there to see what's important, to the community, what all the community needs. Because you got to remember, man, it's a privilege to be in a position where you're regarded as somebody that people want to listen to. And we can't take that for granted. And so our service is to the actual people. So we, if we're not doing things to bring the people together and elevate the people, we're not really doing our job. You know what I'm saying? That we, have been striving for and that have been working for all these years. So I just think, man, that's we at that time in that stage where we need to put that stuff like that together to start really bringing our people and galvanizing our people together. Because I've been around the world. I've been to 6 countries last year. You know what I'm saying? And, I went to Saudi Arabia and I was in Dubai. I was in Turkey. And, like, man, we got everything we need. You hear what I'm saying? Like, when I was in Dubai last year, I went twice last year. And, I was at this thing called the Dubai Expo. 2020. So it's a world gathering. They have it every 5 years in different countries. They're supposed to have it at the beginning of the pandemic, but they wasn't able to, so they held it for 2021. and it's over now. But they turned the whole thing into a city. But they built the city in the desert basically, and brought 180. Basically, every country in the world was there. They had their own building, a pavilion, where they showed you how to invest in that country. You know, what that country has to offer, trade partners with that country. You know, so I went over. I was there as a representative for the Moors, specifically for us as a whole, and also as, you know, for my specific organization, but just a representation for us all. And you know, I'm not going to say which places and stuff like that, but you'd be surprised, man. I went in there and telling them, listen, you know, I represent, you know, Moorish organization from America. We're looking to, you know, create trade partners with other nations. You know, we're a repairing nation, and we just try to do our thing. You know, I didn't say it like that, but you know, just paraphrasing. But man, they would bring me to the back, say, you know, sit down, have some coffee or some tea, you know, some cookies, and kicked it with me. Several different, you know, I'm talking about diplomats, like, because each country the pavilion was being managed. The head person for that pavilion was a diplomat, because it was an internet. It was basically it wasn't the United Nations, but it was basically a United Nations type, you know what I mean, type of situation. And so they was like, you know, we waited so long for your people to come, you know, pretty much holler at us. You know, Element tell you, man, I was calling them, you know, almost every day when I'm there, like, yo, it's we don't realize, you know what I mean, like the time is now and what we actually have, you know what I'm saying, what we can do, you know what I'm saying. And you know, I just think that, you know, we have to, the power isn't what we could get and what we could do. The power isn't working together, man. Because once we do that, we got everything we need to make it happen. And that's really what everybody waiting to see, you know? So I digress, man. But I'm just saying we could do some things, man. We got enough.
Man.
This is wonderful, man. I can,
Mhm.
all right.
Man, this is good.
Yeah, this is good. This
This
is
is real good, man.
yes, 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 yes. The you're definitely hitting the topic because you're addressing in a major way the importance of political unity, the importance of working together. I mean, in order to us to and address bringing Moors classified as nickel cut black into constitutional protection, there needs to be a vehicle of facilitating consciousness, as you mentioned first, all right, because they would have to know that they're Moors, all right, and the vehicle that you're pointing out is the conscious Moors working together. I mean, we can't address unconscious Moors working together first. You got to address conscious Moors working together so that we can facilitate in a broad spectrum way the consciousness of our people. So and that's what I'm hearing, you know, loud. I'm hearing that loud with both of you, and that's very important. And I wanted to make note that major point, major point. And all right. So you want to further speak to that?
Which element? Because my camera, camera went out for a
Right.
second.
Now
Which
you
part
mentioned all right. You mentioned that the a constitutional convention, you know,
Mhm.
and you know, you're pretty much saying that we need to this Moorish movement needs a facelift, as you mentioned. Those using your terms,
Right, right.
and I understand that point. You know, on a national scale, not local, on a national scale.
Yes.
You know, you're getting us to work together on a national scale. You know,
Yeah,
uh,
you got to think about it. Like, what would people say if they saw all of these Moors who they've been listening to for years and engaging with and working with and getting to know and learning from? just came together and did something, just something. You know what I mean? Even before we can get in the room to say what we're going to do, we just got to agree to do something. That brings us together where we could see. We talk about we have the opportunity right now. Is when I look at what's going on with the ADOS and the FBA's Foundation of Black Americans, all of the discussions between the Caribbeans and the Africans, and is a for the first time, our people have the opportunity to dialogue with one another globally, instantly. Imagine during colonization if we had the ability to if we had the natives here getting on the horn, like, the brothers and sisters here in America, the indigenous folks, like, hey, look, this was going on. They bringing this, that, they bringing some other people from the West. If we had a way to just communicate like we have now, and look what we're using it for.
What you want, let's look. You mentioned Constitutional Convention, but I think what you're more talking about, all right, is a meet and greet.
No, I'm saying,
I'm listening to what you're saying. I mean, you say national, you say Constitutional Convention, but then I'm hearing you articulate.
Let me say it like this. We need to do meet and greet, national convention. We have to get in. We're rebuilding our culture. And one thing, alhamdulillah, I can say, I was intentional about wanting to marry into a bloodline that had an ancient, unbroken system of culture. And one thing people in real community, real nationhood do is they marry sons and daughters together. They laugh, eat, drink, and do business together. That's real community, right? So we have to create the space where we're going to discuss the nuts and bolts of what we're going to do at moving forward as solutions for our people and to achieve the goals, define the goals, whatever that has to be. And in that same weekend, in that same space of event, we need to establish the meet and greet first. So I'm saying we need to do a fusion of things all at one time because time is not on our side. But what I'm saying is we need to come together and have meet and greets, but also because we don't want to get in the habit of discussing very sensitive type stuff. It's great to impart knowledge and wisdom and information and research and dialogue among the people for public discourse. But there are some things that we should be discussing behind closed doors in terms of strategy, logistics, goals, mission plans, and what we are attempting to accomplish. You know what I'm saying? That should be held and left up to the leadership. And in that, we can create the space of, after doing that, we can celebrate. We can celebrate just because we met, we talked, we discussed solutions, and now we're going to eat, drink, halal, and have, and engage each other and learn and work together. Build community. We have a chance to rebuild culture at the same time. This is what lays the opportunity that lays ahead of us. So that's what I'm essentially saying we should do. I'm saying we should do all of that.
All right. Alamar, what say you?
Amir, agreed.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, Bell. Please, always. Yes, thank you. Alamir.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Like that goes back to what I was saying earlier about community organization. We need more meetings and conferences and things of that nature that are addressing serious topics such as reparations, such as progressive legislation, and so on. Whatever else that's on the table.
Yeah, like like license plates, IDs, paperwork. What's the right way? What's the wrong way? What do you know? What do I know? How do we improve on it? Whatever, the nitty gritty. You know what I mean? How we going to deal with the mountains of case laws that is disparaging us and giving us bad public image and bad press, and then also discriminating against us in the court? How we're going to deal with these things? That's what the leadership should discuss. Because if not, it leaves it up there for the individual tactics of random people who you really don't know what their intentions are. Like, you can gauge me and Elamir's intentions. We can gauge your intentions because we go back since 2017 and we still here doing it. Right? So we know our intentions. But some of these fly-by-night people that just pop up, you don't know their intentions. You don't know if it could just be a psyop to just make the movement look bad, because the reality is, if there's any change going to be made, no matter what the perception of Moors is, you are going to have to embrace this Moorish paradigm at some point, at some level, to get to the next stage. It's not something you can ignore. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, man. I mean, we have to put that together, and we can work behind the scenes and try to implement that. But that's definitely something that I think the people need and the people want. Also,
if we might need to group up and go on tour. might need to do a 50 state
No, you're right.
tour.
No, you're right about that. We can take it on them. We can
all the Moors meet up in every capital.
Something
like that.
No, I like that.
Good idea.
That's a great idea. Yeah. Because what it does is it creates the element of a campaign trail for us, so that we can galvanize the support, you know what I'm saying, and harness that energy of Moorish support in every city, every major city that's there. And have a unified.
That can be done.
Yeah,
can facilitate that. That can be done.
Yeah, and then we do that, and then end it with the Constitutional Convention at the end. We go around and gather that support and say, boom. After we do that, this date we're meeting, and we're going to this, because what we can do is we go around and hear what the needs of the people are, what the people want, what they need. What solutions do they think? What problems they have, and what we get out there, we get on the trail, and we figure that out, and then we meet up at the end and say, look, this is what we need to do to solve it, and let's celebrate. Yeah, I like that idea. Yes. I like that too.
Anyone? Let's open it up for questions.
Mm-hmm.
I get it. Hold on. I'm going to get it out there, so people type in. Type your questions in, please. Type your questions in. We have 30 minutes. We have 32 minutes. All right. So we want to open it up. We want to open it up for questions. Type your questions in the chat. All right. So let's spend this next 30 minutes filling questions in the chat.
All right. I do actually have an answer for decolonization for the Moroccan Post Media, the Law, Government, and History class on Zoom. I'll be putting that in the chat and a few before we're done. First of all, I'd like to say, I'm not in the camera right now, but I'd like to say these brothers, man, they are on fire tonight. Oh man, it's different to see Abdullah not actually challenging anyone right now.
My God.
I mean, Abdullah was doing backflips back here, and
literally,
I
got up and started dancing. Literally,
yeah,
no joke. I got up and was doing the dance.
In fact, early on,
I was doing the running man dance. No, yeah. So that was not to you.
Early on, when we first started, we were like, "Oh man, fist bumps and everything."
Yeah, that's why you saw my hand like this.
My hand actually slipped, and y'all seen him jump out of his seat, man. So, I mean, you brothers are on fire tonight. We're loving it. I also want to acknowledge a few people, a few more that I see here tonight. I do see Elkanan.
Elkanan. Yeah,
You know,
love it.
that's a good brother.
My Masonic connection.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
I see brother.
Chicago.
Oh man, where is he?
Shem Malachi Bay.
Oh, Shem.
Malachi
Oh man,
Bay.
he's on. Oh man,
Yes.
you know, beautiful brother. But anyway, let's see if we have any questions here. Brother DuPont, I just want
Brother
to
DuPont.
yes, I
Brother
want to
DuPont.
acknowledge. Okay. Let's see if we have anything here.
All right. We're looking for questions. All right, type your questions in,
Now,
y'all, please. Come on, type your questions in. We have 29 minutes.
Okay. This is from Elkanan.
Elkanan.
Do the Moorish treaties have an expiration?
All right.
Who'd like to answer that one?
All right. Do the Moorish treaties have an expiration?
No. No, they don't. There's actually a clause that was added in the 1836 version that pretty much made it so they don't have to renew it again. And again, you must remember these treaties are ratified, so they're a part of federal law. It's not like they're separate from federal law.
Mm-hmm.
They are federal law. You know, the first one in 1786 had an expiration clause for 50 years. When they redid it in 1836, they added an additional clause that removed the need to redo it.
Redo it.
Yeah, it's so it doesn't expire. You know, every 50 years there's an opportunity to not renew it, but it's automatically renewed if it's not renewed every 50 years, you know. And
in addition, you can go to treaties in force on the U.S. Department of State website. Any treaty that's in force is going to be on that list.
and it's also that the 1836 treaty is ratified at HStat 484-487, 484-248, like dash 487.
Can
You know?
Alamir, can you put that in the chat?
And another thing too, something that I think
Please.
Something that I think that's also important to this discussion. And if y'all get a chance, definitely check out the Mansa channel on YouTube. There's Murakush Minutes videos that we did where I give some really, really, very precise and integral breakdown to the application of the Moorish identity and the treaties in particular. And one thing I think that has to be understood, you can also go to murakushlawfirm.com. We have a lot of case studies up there that's breaking down certain things.
Put that in the chat too.
All right.
Put all your information in the chat as we know.
Yeah, I put it in our chat, so I don't know if someone's going to be able to copy and paste it on the back end, but I'll put it in ours. We put some links in there.
All right.
But the point I want to make is, there's an expanded aspect to the discussion when we talk about our indigenous heritage in America, as well as combining the heritage that we got from what's known as the continent of Africa. But, just keeping along the traditional lines of understanding of the Moorish heritage, when we look at what I was speaking about earlier in terms of being the Sultan of Morocco at the time, with the treaty with the British being acknowledged as the ruler of all of West Africa, or all of west of Africa, it's important because there was a International Criminal Court of Justice case in which Morocco was in dispute with Spain over the Sahara territory. It's like a territory in Morocco that's disputed, and that particular case, the outcome of it, and it's on our Murakush Law Firm website. I have it right here. I'll read it, and I don't know if Illumin, if you get a chance, you can post it. But let me get to the
Yeah, it's
big
posted
part.
already.
All right. So okay, here it goes. It says there's no doubt that the religious tie is one of the constituent elements in legal ties and in those of nationality being additional to ethnic, social, cultural, and economic ties and national aspirations, and making them more binding, the more so in that the Sultan possessed both temporal and spiritual powers and appointed the Qadis who applied Muslim law. Modern examples showing the strength of religious ties abound in Ireland, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and the states, with the constitutions which determine the religion of the head of state or establish a state religion. The religious be the religious tie is thus a constituent element of the legal tie. To prove the existence of the religious tie between the Sahrawi and the Moroccans, one must quote in particular Paul Cambon, the French ambassador in Madrid, who reported the following observation in a dispatch to his Minister of Foreign Affairs. It has always been recognized that the territorial sovereignty of the Sultan extends as far as his religious suzerainty, and as it is beyond doubt that the peoples of Cape Juby are subject to him from the religious point of view, we could consider his sovereignty indisputable.
What's the reference again, Master?
That's from Faoud Amoun. He was a prime minister of foreign affairs in Lebanon, and that's from an ICJ case that he spoke about between Spain and Morocco over the Western Sahara.
That's international ICJ acronym for
Yeah,
International Court of Justice.
yeah, that's from his he did a separate opinion in that case. So that's from his separate opinion. We posted the links in both chats.
All right, good. Thank you.
Right. So my point in bringing that up, and I won't drag it on if there's other questions, but my point in bringing that up is you got to understand a couple of things that was happening at the time. That means that, okay, so we have a situation with Prince Abdul Rahman, who is the story about Prince Among Slaves is about, right? He was captured in Timbo. Now, there's a brother that, joined one of our classes. He's from Timbo, to modern day, but he was from Timbo, and that wasn't Morocco. But when he was captured and he wrote a letter to the Sultan of Morocco at that time got him freed. So we have use case and we have examples and precedents where this has been applied to show you that because a lot of times people think of Morocco and they look at modern Kingdom of Morocco, the modern nation state, not realizing that you have to interpret treaties at the time they were made. And at that time, the dominions extended all of West Africa. So any slave trading that went on was unauthorized by those local chiefs or kings because they didn't have the jurisdictional authority and power to trade Moorish slaves to Europeans. So you got to understand how significant that is. That creates the basis for it to be labeled illegal. You understand? Because they didn't even have the authority to do any selling.
Oh man, I'm loving this.
The other thing is when you look at the treaties, they use the terms empire and emperor. So when you look at the jurisdiction of the empire of Morocco, you're talking about Iberia down to Senegal and modern Nigeria, and maybe even further. So people got to understand there's a difference between the kingdom and the empire.
And you got to understand that these political maps that are drawn change over time. So you can't look at the modern map and say, oh, that's Morocco, so they're talking about that. No, Morocco back then meant all of West Africa.
Okay. I have a a citation from Voltaire on the borders of the empire in his time, which he was around in the late 1700s,
Yeah,
early
yeah.
1800s.
Philosopher. Yeah.
And let me just, you continue. I'm gonna drop the link.
All right. So just wrapping up that point, uh, the reality is that there was the West Africa and okay, so two things. There's a book called The Outgrowth, The Discovery of America
Mhm.
was the outgrowth of the Moors being conquered in Spain. It's like a ebook. You can kind of Google
Outgrowth.
it.
Yeah, outgrowth of the conquest of the Moors.
There we go. Yeah.
Yes.
Right. And that's what they was teaching kids in the 1800s, I believe, in junior high school. That's what they was reading.
Yes.
So what you have to understand is that's one part of it. And then the
Mhm.
other part is the war between Moors in West Africa is what led to it. And what led to it, like a lot of times, like on the traditional Muslim side, you have a lot of those who are pro-black, not like Morocco, because it invaded Timbuktu. But nobody talks about the underlying reality of what took place. Uh, the Moroccan Sultan, I forget which one at the time, he was overthrown because he was considered he wasn't doing enough to keep the Europeans from crossing into Africa. Because you got to think about it. Where modern Morocco is and Algeria and Tunis and all at the coast, that is the first line of defense against European colonialism, right? So what end up happening, or the implementation of the doctrine of discovery, however you want to slice it. So what ends up happening is these guys were flooding in, and the current sultan wasn't doing anything about it, so he got overthrown. It was a coup attempt, and in so doing, that previous Moroccan sultan was friends with, I believe, Askia Muhammad. You can fact check to make sure that's correct, but Askia Muhammad,
Mhm.
right, from the Songhai Empire,
Empire. Yeah.
right. So Askia Muhammad didn't like it that he overthrew his friend. So when that sultan sent for troops, because Askia Muhammad would always supply Morocco with fighters and troops and soldiers,
Mhm.
right? So he didn't send. So he requested, the new sultan requested these soldiers, and so Askia Muhammad sent the soldiers, but he didn't send the soldiers to help. He sent the soldiers, and they burnt the country down. You know what I mean? So that prompted the Sultan of Morocco at the time to realize, okay, they're not allies. So they went to squash them out pretty much. They went to invade and they wasn't successful on the first attempt. So they came back and got English, they got firearms from the English, and they got soldiers from Portugal. And then they invaded Timbuktu, disposed of Iskia Muhammad. And what happened is they married into the nobility of Songhai. You understand? So Songhai, there were connections prior to that, but that further cemented the bloodline ties between what you would say is modern Morocco, down on to Mali and all of West Africa with the Songhai Empire and Morocco, their nobility merging at that point. But that is what broke the strength of West Africa that led to the slave trade based on that conflict. You understand? That's how it transpired. So while this was happening and wars were breaking out because there was a power vacuum, you have the animist tribes who are not necessarily Islamic, and you have some Judaic tribes, and you have Muslim tribes. And so the vacuum of that uh created what we know as the foundation for the transatlantic slave trade to take place. However, in that power vacuum, internationally, it was understood that the Europeans wouldn't buy Moors as slaves because in those treaties it talks about Moors subject to the dominions of the emperor or the sultan, and those dominions that are not subject to his dominion were still protected under the treaties. You see, so you didn't have to be in the dominions of the Sultan to be protected by the treaty that the Sultan made. And in Islam, and from our side, that was a grant. It wasn't actually a treaty. It's just when the United States ratified it and accepted it, they passed it among themselves as a treaty. But it's technically a grant, you know. So those are some key things to understand, because that's going to give you the understanding that there uh, the Moorish application of how that treaty is supposed to protect us was made during times of multiple wars. And some of the first people captured and brought to the Americas were from Morocco. You know, and the Ilamir could elaborate on that a little better.
Yeah, absolutely. The Portuguese was purchasing slaves from the Spaniards, and yeah, they were sending them to the Americas. Um, but I wanted to say too about the Abdul Rahman being from Timbo. He was, but what people gotta reflect on is that Timbo is within the empire of Morocco. So in that context, he's still from Morocco, just not what you know today to be the kingdom of Morocco. Just to put some clarity on that. Um
And one thing I want to
the,
add to that is a lot of times people. Oh, my bad. You want to finish?
Now I was just gonna add on that although the Songhai
Yeah.
had those issues, uh I think it was Mansour. If I'm correct, Mansour was from an Arabian tribe. So some of the issues that they had was because the Berber tribes did not like uh, the the Arab tribes coming into their territories and lording over them. And it must be understood that the Songhai and many other tribes, even the Ashanti, these are Berbers. These are Berber tribes. So they are Moors uh, ethnically, lineage wise, and racially. Um, there are references that I found where they even call them the Roma Moors because they are the same people that the Roman sources are talking about when you're looking at ancient Roman records.
Yeah, no, that's essential. And that piece that I wanted to add was that we also have to be aware that when we're talking about these different jurisdictions, like you'll get a lot of people to say, yo, the Moors didn't call themselves Moors and all of this and all of that. It's an English term. It's an English term, and we're speaking English. Okay, but Moor is an English term for Maori, Kush, all that type of stuff. We don't got to go there. But the point is this: you have to understand the difference between an international identity and a tribal identity. Because I see there's a big movement for people to put their tribe first. And I understand the need and the necessity to connect with our tribes, but the tribe is a smaller identity. For instance, if someone if you go right now to another country and you're from the United States, right? And you go to another country and they ask you, where are you from? You're not going to say New York. You're not going to say
No, they're not.
Burlington County.
No,
You're not going to say I'm a New Yorkian,
no.
or Pennsylvanian. You're going to say I'm an American or a United States citizen.
Right.
Okay, that's the international identity. Now, whether you're from New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Georgia, or something like that, that would be your tribal identity. You see? So, because when the US set it up, they set it up as a mirror of the ancient structure. And under Moorish law, you have in the Quran where Allah says that He made humans into tribes and nations so they may know each other. So your nationality is the international identity that you'll be known by. So you can't say, oh, those people over there didn't call themselves Moors. Listen, a lot of our brothers and sisters on the continent, just like us, you got to remember, they were re-educated as well. They went through colonization. They didn't have control over their learning institutions as well. The countries that they have been colonized, and they were given those names to those countries by the colonists. So the same issue where there's a misunderstanding of this identity issue, it comes, it's the same issue that we having, except they were able to make and claim their nation state based on that. So you got to understand the difference between your international identity and your tribal one to understand the inflection that Elamir means when he's talking about knowing the difference between the empire and the kingdom. But I digress.
Yeah, just to put that one to bed, I be hearing that a lot too. They did call themselves Moors, and they also called themselves Berbers. And we know that because it's recorded by Strabo, in which he said Moors named themselves. And he also said that it was a name used by the natives of Mauritania, which means that it wasn't just the Romans and Greeks calling them Moors. They were calling themselves Moors. Some of these terms we're using today came from the Moors directly. Um, even the term Niger. It is the Berber tribes of the Niger that named that river. They named the river Niger because it was black. Now today it's the name of the nation state is become also the term that's considered the N word and all that. But they didn't necessarily call themselves niggas, but they named the river that.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Question. We have one last question. We want to get this question in. Ahead,
so real quick, I tried to copy and paste the link for the Zoom, and it posted like 100 different ones. So it's the last ones. Look at the last ones that I posted. It actually showed. So if you go to your Zoom and then you copy from where it says the HTTPS, copy that from there all the way to where it says meeting. Right, and then it shows you the meeting ID which is the 867-4947-5572. That's the meeting ID, and the passcode is 205419. So just make sure you get that in, and it's going to be every Wednesday, and then each one of these classes we're going to post on Moroccan Post Media YouTube page, not Moroccan Post. We don't have access to Moroccan Post, so we had to kind of make another one slide over to another one. So that's Moroccan Post Media, and so everything that we're doing here is going to be posted on that Moroccan Post Media. Make sure you tune in. Also, I want to answer this. I want you guys to answer this question from Afro Samurai, the Lord Afro Samurai. He says, "How can I be a part of Moorish restoration?"
Hey, see, Brother Abdullah, what I'm talking about, what the people want. As soon as you give them that option, they want it. They want in. So I right now, because just stay around. We're gonna get with the brothers, the leadership, put something together. And inshallah, we're going to make another presentation to the people, let them know how they can formally participate. But just stick around.
Yes.
Stick around.
And they have their website. We have our information up there. Yes. So
stay in touch.
I would also want to add to that. Wednesday nights. There's your answer right there. Wednesday nights. I mean, we're learning. Wednesday nights starting at 7. It's going
Eastern Standard Time.
7, 8. What is it?
3 hours. 7 to 10.
Yep, 7 to 10. Yeah, there we go. 7 to 10. So yeah, jump on the Zoom link. I mean, that's for everyone. Education. I mean, we can't move anywhere without education. If you don't know who you are. Yeah,
To
go ahead.
answer the brother in the chat, he's the brother on G's. He said, "I believe Fulani as well are Berbers." Yes, in the ancient text, when you're talking about the Roman and Arab sources, yes. Now you might run into some Fulani brothers today that don't know that, and they'll disagree with you.
They don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, hey.
And another thing is there was a statement made, I think, by someone named Neo. It says, "Yet if you're a man, you're as a man are your own god slash king. Why would you then be under another man's government?" See, this is one thing too that just for me personally, the practice of Islam has really humbled me in a way where I just have a much more respect for humanity and understanding that you're here to serve your gift and share your gift with humanity. And it's that type of ego driven mentality that we have to remove from the Moors. I'm willing to subject myself and submit to the jurisdiction to be tried and adjudicated upon by my peers than I would an outside. Because if you refuse to govern yourselves as a collective, someone else is going to govern you. And if you are so much of a king and a god by yourself, then solve the problems in all of the issues by yourself. Because we need each other. You ain't gonna, this whole concept that I'm a sovereign individual by myself and I don't need no help. Nobody can tell me what to do. That's anarchy. That's anarchy. That's every man for themselves, every woman for themselves. That's not nationality. That's not natural law. That's not natural order. That's not what we did as Moors. So I just wanted
Yeah,
to address that.
it ain't gonna work either. I'm
Wonderful,
just
wonderful,
let you know now.
wonderful. All right, so we're gonna let's wrap this up. Please.
Okay.
All right, we want to thank your brothers. Wow, this is man, this is actually a treat. We want to bring y'all back. How soon can y'all come back?
Uh, let's we'll work it out.
We'll work it out.
Yeah, we'll work it out.
Yeah, we'll work
Inshallah.
it out.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I
Yeah.
appreciate y'all having us on.
We
Really
also
do.
have Wednesday night too. We're not just the Crumb TV microphone Crumb TV. We also have class Wednesday night. So also invite you're also welcome Wednesday night too.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
We're
Thank
not
you.
just limited to just this platform. We also have
Okay.
Wednesday night. So
Okay.
that's open. That's from 7 to 10 Eastern
Okay.
Standard Time for y'all. So let me know when y'all
Okay.
want to do a class on Wednesday night.
For
So
sure.
all right, and that's like I said, that'll be posted on our YouTube page, so then y'all can have it and share it with your folks.
Got you.
Right. All
Your
right.
connection.
No.
All right.
All right.
Moors and masonry.
All right, so we have once again Moors and Masonry. The enslavement of Europeans does not fit the general theme of European world conquest and colonization that is central to scholarship on the early modern era. Robert Davis, professor of Italian Renaissance history at Ohio State University, moorsandmasonry.org. All right, we have Moors and Masonry, part two, the power of Moorish treaties and the recovery of lost Moorish sovereignty. You can pre-order the book, go to moorsandmasonry.org. And Brother Massa has a book. All right, you want to give a plug for your book, brother?
Yes, thank you. It's From Slaves to Kings. And you can pick it up at fromslavestokings.com. It's an excellent book. The first chapter goes into why Moorish history is world history. Really, it's like a blueprint, an individual blueprint you can follow from A to Z. So check that out. Also, check us out at Murakush, MURAKUSH society.org. We have books for sale there. We have a lot of free articles that you could just read and learn about the history of the Moorish legacy. We also have Murakush Law Firm, MURAKUSH lawfirm.com. We have an entire use case studies tab where you could just get all of the legal understandings at a bird's eye view of the application of the Moorish identity. And we have tons of books for sale on that website as well. So I want to thank the brother Abdullah for having myself and brother Elamir on. And, we definitely want to work it out. We can come back again and share more with your audience. Really honor the brother. We appreciate the brother. He's been a frontline soldier in this for so many years. So we're honored to be on here to be able to share what we've shared with you tonight. So without further ado, Assalamu alaikum, honors, peace, love, honors for the acknowledgement, appreciation. You know, let's do this thing. Let's move forward.
Absolutely. All right,
Absolutely.
peace, my brothers and sisters. Everyone who will listen, I greatly appreciate
Peace.
y'all. All right, we see y'all Wednesday night. We are Wednesday night live, 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All right, peace, everyone.
All right. One more shout out. Crumb. Can't forget Crumb.
Thank you, Brother Crumb, all right, for allowing the Moroccan Post to have this platform. Thank you.
All right. Peace.